This week on the Noble Dram, the exciting conclusion of our conversation with Big Chief.
And if you missed it, Aaron and I had an amazing opportunity to sit down on his show, The Whiskey Trip,
where we got to talk all things Texas, from football to barbecue and a couple of bourbons.
You know what? Enough about last week. Buckle up, Buttercup, as we take a ride with the Big Chief. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Noble Dram. We are so excited that you're here with us, and it's a little different than normal.
Yeah, we got an extra one.
Yeah, we picked him up on the side of the road because you know what? He's whiskey tripping.
Just a little homeless guy walking down the road.
So, for those who missed or don't follow Whiskey Trip, we got to be on Big Chief's show a couple of weeks ago, and we said this was so much fun recording this that we needed to do more, and so now we get to have you on our show.
Yeah,
this is quite a bit of fun. So first, let me say thanks for being here.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. The first episode was a blast, and I think I don't usually get interviewed by people. Well, I do, but not typically.
Well, man, Gavin, I saw some of Gavin's questions. You are screwed.
Does it feel awkward to be in the hot seat?
I do not have hemorrhoids, by the way. That's your question.
All right. Let me take that one off the list.
All right, we're up there.
All right. So before we get into whiskey, because we always like to race straight into whiskey, I noticed Gavin's already got his bottle out. He's so antsy. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about Whiskey Trip and Big Chief?
Well, it's the Whiskey Trip.
Oh, sorry.
Then I don't want to get sued because Gary Stewart owns Whiskey Trip. Former
Is
artist.
it the or the?
It's on the glass.
No, I know, but you
you
pronounce it the or the.
Well, you give me and Gavin a shit of a time.
Yeah.
About it, but it's the Whiskey Trip, right?
Okay.
And I guess the Whiskey Trip is about taking a ride and taking an adventure, going to different distilleries. And I always say I want to be the Paul Harvey of whiskey, right? I want to tell a story. I want to, when I go to a distillery and the first thing I say to them, they're like, hey, we're going to give you this whiskey. I didn't come for your whiskey. I came to steal your story, right? I want to put that story out to the world. And I want the story nobody else knows. One of the best stories I've ever gotten was from Marlene Holmes at Milam and Green, and she's telling me about her and Booker No, when she was a distillery supervisor at Jim Beam, and about feeding his catfish. And I was like, wow, that's a story right there. That's the kind of stories I'm looking for. While the whiskey is great, I'm also want to meet people and connect people. If somebody said, hey, what's your superpower? I'd say mine is connection between folks. And that's how I met you guys. Don't be scared to go up to somebody and say, hey, my name is, Mike Hyatt, or, my moniker of being Big Chief. Don't go up, don't be afraid to go up to somebody and introduce yourself and say, hey, let's get out there in the world a little bit.
You may not be able to pick this up on the screen, but Gavin and I are both sitting on phone books to try to look bigger next to Mike.
Now, come on, how tall are you?
About 6'2".
So I'm at that same height, right? But I'll probably outweigh you probably a good 75 pounds, I would think.
You're a me and a Gavin together, is what you're saying? 'Cause Gavin's a tiny little fella.
He's
a
leprechaun.
290 right now.
You got me by about 75 pounds. Yeah,
no. We're not going to tell you where we're at.
Where are you at, $140?
I'm a little
60,
a little heavier. I'm about 180 right now.
180.
Yeah.
My very first driver's license at 14 years old, I was 185 pounds.
I think on my 14, that's when I got my first driver's license, and I was 225 at 14.
Oof. That's a big boy, even then.
Yeah,
he was Big Chief.
It did not hurt with the ladies, though.
I will say I was not 6'2" at 14, though. I was a late sprouter, so I was a much shorter 185.
You were a Gumby at that point.
All right, so if you watched a couple Tuesdays ago when we were on the whiskey trip, you kind of know where the conversation has been so far and what we talked about. And where we really kind of focused was this idea of whiskeys that were surprising, right? The stories behind people that surprised us, that make things great. So I gave Gavin and I the challenge of you need to pick a whiskey that doesn't taste like the things they normally produce. What is that surprise whiskey? You picked American-made products. So Gavin and I said we got to go overseas. And so we have picked 2 scotches tonight.
All right.
That are atypical from their distilleries. That's our theme. That's our theme. So I get to go first.
Gavin looks like he's got the working man's bottle, and you got.
Oh, no. Mine is bougie as hell.
Look how shiny that thing is.
All right. No, wait,
you can't even see inside of it.
It's like a pair of rims.
Just hold that top. That's a nice.
You could kill somebody.
That is fabulous.
This is like a Frey Ranch.
I'm gonna let you pour your own, so that way then I'm not in trouble for over pouring anything.
Can I just say, first and foremost, thank you for the bourbon bullshitter shirts.
Yes,
we're drinking scotch
in bourbon bullshitter shirts.
I'm sure the Scottish would love this. But what was this aged in?
So this one has been aged in a variety of barrels. Bourbon, obviously, in that mix.
So it's really just dirty bourbon, as I said on the first.
Dirty bourbon. I'm going to tell you it's delicious dirty bourbon, though. Okay. All right, so let's start with a little bit about Glenmorangie. Glenmorangie is actually really, really known for their barrel selection program. So they actually own Forest and a cooperage in Missouri and make their own barrels, then lease those barrels to Jack Daniels and Jim Beam. And so that's how they get their ex-bourbon. And so if you ever go and take a look at Glenmorangie, what you'll really notice is they do a lot of specialty finishing barrels. A variety of different wines, other bourbons, all of that. But this one specifically is completely different from that. What makes Signe special is that they heavily, heavily toast their barley. So a dark roasted chocolate malt is what they refer to it as. So this one clocks in at 46% ABV. For those people who like to live on the Imperial, that's a 92 proof.
We're going down a little bit.
There is no age statement on this, but they believe most of this product is somewhere between 15 and 21 years old. This is produced 1 week a year during Signet Week, typically in October. So you will find this kind of hits the shelves and it's available, and then it disappears for a while, right? While they wait for the next year's release.
So this would be considered a sweet mash. Most Scottish whiskey and most Irish whiskey is a sweet mash versus American whiskeys being a sour mash.
Right. Yep.
Absolutely. So in traditional form for our show, we're going to come back at the end and talk about what we smell and taste, and we'll give numbers to them, and I'll walk you through exactly how we parse out numbers, because we are different than a lot of shows, and the fact that we routinely rate things less than 95. We find most shows are like, the scores are anywhere from 94 to 97. I was like, well, that didn't really tell me much about the whiskey if every whiskey you rate is always up in that range. So
I gotta say, the nose on this, I love the nose. It's very beautiful. And on the last week's show, or the first half of this, you commented on the Effie bottle and how beautiful, very beautiful bottle.
Yes,
but it almost looks like they're trying to hide something in the bottle, just because of the blackness of it and stuff. And I don't know. It's just something about me. Like, what are you trying to hide?
I feel the same way. I'm a bottle kind of guy. I like the way bottles look, and Aaron always has the adage of you eat with your eyes first, or you drink with your eyes first, right? You see something, even at a book, right? You judge the book by its cover for sure when it comes to whiskey. If it's a bottle that is completely black or completely whited out, and you can't see anything in it, it's really hard to judge the liquid inside with your eyes, because you just can't see it, right?
Yeah, but there's also a bit of a premium whiskey feels right in a premium bottle, right? Like if every whiskey was served in a plastic jug, it wouldn't feel the same. And part of I go, oh, you dropped it and it bounced. That's not a good whiskey.
I don't know. Maybe this one, because it kind of smokes down to it.
No, you can see a bit of the color on the bottom.
Right, it's like seeing a thong on a woman.
This is the whale tail of whiskeys. I like where your head's at. I like where your head's at.
You're like, oh, what is that? But no, God Almighty, that's a good whiskey. My question would be, how much did that bottle?
So this bottle MSRP is at $220.
Ooh, that's a big bourbon bottle right there.
Yeah. Now we're making a big jump from probably the bottles.
No. Now you're making it sound like you only brought cheap stuff. The stuff we had in the first half was very, very tasty.
I would tell you that 8-year-old is not around the same price, but pretty expensive.
Which is a fun thing to kind of talk through. So, on part 1 of this collaboration that we're doing, we did talk a lot about Texas whiskeys, right? Or we started that conversation. So now I'd like to actually go back to some of that.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, we are drinking Scotch, and we are going
we're going to talk Texas.
We're going to talk Texas,
Scotland. That's all right.
But this is part of the fun of magic, right? Of whiskey podcasting magic. So, Big Chief, Texas whiskey has a distinct identity, right? And I think sometimes we struggle, and we talked about it a little bit in your episode, where like the United States doesn't really have whiskey regions quite yet, but we may be getting there at some point. Texas whiskey has a kind of an identity of hotter aging, bigger oak, bolder profiles. What was the first Texas whiskey that stopped you in your tracks and was like, this is different and I like it?
I would say, I have to say, Iron Root Harbinger. Just like, bam, I was like, holy shit, this is some kind of magical stuff. And maybe it was the Licorice family themselves and Marcia, the mother of Texas whiskey, but the whiskey in the glass and the way that they macerate their barrels, to me, they macerate their barrels like the French macerate brandy, right? They are just totally different in life. So Iron Root would be that harbinger. Just kind of opened my eyes up to say, oh man, these whiskeys are a little bit different than what I'd tasted before in Garrison Brothers or Balcones with their, they weren't American single malts at the time, but they're single malts, and tasting those. So that would be it. The Iron Root just was like, God dang, this is good.
Was what made that one stand out because it was so much like other regions' whiskeys, or was it on its own? It was good, independent, not like everyone else. So
I think they're not trying to make Kentucky bourbon or Texas whiskey. They're making their whiskey, and I think that's what people need to understand about distilleries. Even in Kentucky, a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's Kentucky bourbon," but there's a big difference between Buffalo Trace's whiskey and, let's say, Heaven Hill, where Buffalo Trace's rye spice, these big chocolate notes and stuff in their rye, or not their rye, but their wheat. What you have with Heaven Hill is you got this peanut taste, this nuttiness, right? And you get the same thing down in that Bardstown region. So it's even in Kentucky, there's regions to me. Where Heaven Hill is even further north than what Maker's Mark is. I think to me, what stood out about the Harbinger, number one, it's higher proof. Right? I think it's 118. It was a younger whiskey, which surprised me. And I'm not an ageist in whiskey. I think some whiskey nerds can be ageist and be like, well, Scotch has to be this old and bourbon has to be this old. I look for it as a regional thing, right? I look at the terroir and where it was made, and it's like wine, right? I'm not going to judge French wine against California wine or against Australia wine or let's say Brazil or Argentina makes some very beautiful wines. I'm not going to judge those against each other. They all stand out for their own terroir.
Yeah,
and I think whiskey we need to do the same thing.
I think when we get down to scoring,
Yeah, I was going to say scoring.
we often say, well, this has the same number as that bourbon we also take, but that does not mean those are the same, right? The range we try to say a 90 from bourbon is different than a 90 from Scotch, right? We're comparing them to their like kind, but one of the fun parts is when you stumble into a whiskey that is like, man, that kind of breaks the mold. Right, that's not what you typically think of, which distinctly different here than what you think of when you think of Highland Scotch, right? Normally, I start thinking about light, sweet floral notes and maltiness, and all the maltiness here completely different than what you typically see. So,
This has like this, and also we were going to talk about tasting notes, but on the very back end of my palate, I get a little bit of smokiness on this. And I'm looking at that beautifulness of this whiskey, and I'm not trying to judge this against any other whiskey, right? It's what's in the glass right now. What glass am I drinking it in? That matters. If you drink it in a rocks glass over a big old giant chunk of ice, that can change the complexity of this whiskey, the same as it would anything else. If you drink it, it depends on what kind of ice you're using. Distilled ice. Are you using just tap water that has a bunch of chlorine and fluoride in it and stuff? Or are you drinking it with just some store-bought ice that's total trash?
What was your glass washed in?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
If you wash it and you like cooked, let's say your wife had a mixing bowl and she whisked up some scrambled eggs for you in the morning, right? She sticks that in the dishwasher and you stick that same glass in that dishwasher, you might as well throw that glass away or rewash it because it's going to taste
That's been an argument.
Oh yeah.
So my dad has this exact same argument about coffee, and he won't let my mom wash the coffee mug he drinks out of every morning with anything else for this exact same reason. I think shape of glass matters, right? We're drinking out of these great, the whiskey trip.
Spey rocks glass.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a little different shape, neck size, opening size than you get out of a Glencairn, than certainly you get out of a rocks glass or a highball. That ultimately does change your perception. I was intrigued. My wife being a wine person, she actually talks about smelling the front edge of the glass versus the far side of the glass. And how some compounds are heavier, and when you rock the glass, some compounds actually roll across the bottom of the glass, and some of the lighter compounds roll across the top of the glass. Now, all my Glencairns, that distance is this far, and my nose is about the same size, so I'm not positive I get a difference in Glencairns, but certainly in wine glasses, right? I had a buddy who did a wine tasting, and they got to the end, and they told him it was the same wine in every glass. It was just a different shaped glass. And they were talking about all the different nuances that they had picked up.
Do y'all ever find yourself like at, drinking a soda and sticking your nose in the
No,
in the
it's
cup,
just you.
and
You're
like,
weird.
that's a great.
I was like, no, I've never done that.
Like I have done that. Like I'm like, oh, this is soda. Like maybe it's
RC cola?
yeah, exactly.
You're a pib guy, aren't you?
No, I'm definitely not Mr. Pitt.
Is that as a big an insult as it came across?
Oh my gosh.
You're a pib
Well, you're
guy.
from Oklahoma, so
We're Dr. Pepper. What I will say is AMC theaters, no, Carmike theaters are from Georgia. Georgia are Pib folk. And so...
it's because of Coke.
Yeah, exactly. And so my brother worked at a movie theater for many years in Oklahoma when he was in high school and college. And so I get into movies for free all the time. And I go in there and I get soda. And I was like, it's Mr. Pibb. It's just not, it's not the same.
It's not. It's shameful.
So shameful. So
But
shameful.
I'm surprised you would drink it because it's from Texas.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is.
There's
a whole story behind Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
The hatred that Oklahoma has for Texas, I don't know as if Oklahoma State has that same hatred.
They don't because,
There's a bit of like enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? That kind of thing.
Well, they're like...
We're nice.
I hate to say this. You're like the Texas A&M of Oklahoma.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Now I can't. I have clients out there. I can't talk about this stuff.
Most states have a bit of the city kid school and the country kid school, right? I came from the country kid school in my state as well. So,
Well, to be fair, we were Oklahoma A&M before we were Oklahoma State. So
I'm not going to throw this around, but the very first A&M university in the country was Kansas State. So everyone else follows that.
so
We were the Kansas State Aggies way back in the day, long
thought-
before the A&M.
I thought
Texas
Georgia Tech was.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, let us know down in the comments for sure.
the one Georgia fan that watches Georgia Tech fan that
One
watches.
Georgia Tech in the whole country.
Yeah.
So I got another question for you. So we've talked obviously Texas, we've talked some Kentucky, and we've talked Scotch and Scotland a little bit. For the folks out there that say, that they don't like Texas or Texas can't hold up to a Kentucky whiskey, like what is that one Texas whiskey that, outside of kind of that one that spoke to you, your first Texas whiskey that really made you stop in your tracks? If there was another Texas whiskey or a bottle that you would say this really holds up to a Kentucky whiskey, what would
I
that
think right now Still Austin's showing that. Number one, they're putting the money behind the marketing of it, but they're also column still, right? And that's, I think that's a lot of the people that are right on the verge of being a whiskey nerd. They just don't understand enough about pot still versus column still. We talked a little bit on the first half about that, but understanding that they're using a column still, they palletize their whiskey, but so do people in Kentucky. But I think they're the ones right now that are showing that diversity in whiskey and showing that they can stand up against a Kentucky bourbon. But it's more about marketing, though, than it is anything. It's not the whiskey itself; it's marketing.
I think you're right. I think Still Austin is making really good whiskey. I think what helps Still Austin is they're making a very Kentucky style of whiskey for the vast majority of the product. It's got a lot of the similar profiles. But the part I find most intriguing is all of the ones people chase and all the accolades come when they break that and go do something different that isn't, right? Whether it's red corn or blue corn, it's when they break that mold and go do something atypical. That's where the accolades seem to find.
I think that, even Kentucky, let's just get real. If you just took Jim Beam White Label and
We did this once.
you tell me that you could put Jim Beam White Label or even a Benchmark, just a old Benchmark off the shelf, right? Because that's Buffalo Trace.
I don't know how well you do research, but this is like every one of the first 6 episodes we did.
This is what we did.
We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up, and we did all these.
Tell me that you would put any of those up against any Still Austin their regular distillate, and tell me how they fared in a blind.
For sure.
And then come back and talk to me. Don't just say, well, I drink Texas whiskey. That's the same thing with Scotch. Don't just tell me, hey, you hate Scotch or you hate Irish whiskey, because I want to know what did you drink before that you made you not like it.
It's probably, it's probably somebody that was like, oh, here, taste this. And it is so high proof or it is so peated that's what their first introduction is. And so they don't know kind of the complexity of it, or they don't know the other side of it. And they get this one thing and they're like, nope, don't like it. Never want to taste it again.
This right here is like this nice, and some people would be like, I'm telling you, if you don't go out and try to find you a pour of this and like just try it and open your mind up, you're gonna drink it that first sip and you're gonna be like, ooh, this is a sexy whiskey that's like drinking a nice orange spiced hot tea with some honey in it in the wintertime. Man.
It's
even got lace on it.
It is so different. It is so different than other whiskeys, right? Like this really does kind of deviate from that. So before we get into what we're tasting in the glass, because I do want to come back to that, I'm curious. We talked a little bit about Scotch. We talked a little bit about Texas. We talked a little about Kentucky. Is there an area of the globe right now that you're like, I really like what's coming out of there? That's where I think something cool is originating. They're doing things the right way. Is there a region globally that you love?
I think globally, the region that's ever going to shock people is India right now. They're building beautiful distilleries. There's some whiskey out of there that's going to shock some people. I think in the next 20 years, that's going to be the place that really, really shocks people. I've got a couple German whiskeys. That's more the grain belt of Europe. A lot of people don't know that. And the Germans were some of the first that made whiskey in the United States. I think there are ryes coming out of there that are super beautiful, but I'm just wondering if we're not going to see some stuff out of South America that just totally blows people's doors off.
You don't really see anything coming out of there now, right? It would be intriguing. But yeah, we did some whiskeys from around the world, and we were really surprised by India for sure.
I just think the Japanese are already there, right? The Japanese whiskeys are some of them are really, really good. But I think India is that country that makes you wonder. They're also the country with the most alcohol poisoning because of all the illegal hooch they make there. Because of the class system there. If that makes sense.
No, I'm with you. All right, so I want to get back to the whiskey.
Yep.
So we touched on a little bit, but I'm going to give you a chance to kind of fine point it down. We're going to go nose, then palate, then finish. Is there things about this that jump out to you? Let's start with the nose.
On the nose, I get this like nice toasted peach.
Ooh.
Maybe some drizzled honey on that peach. That when it's warm though,
Like grilled.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is very, very beautiful nose. When I first hit my palate, I was like, this is like, I used to hate apple pie because my mom would make this apple pie and she would just use this, and you remember this, right? That
canned apples.
Canned
Yeah,
apples.
for
Like,
sure.
This is horrible. But then I met my wife and she's like, I'm going to make you an apple pie. And I was like, all right. That's way to a man's heart. She went in there and sliced up these apples really, really thin. And,
She get extra goo between the layers.
She put like brown sugar in there and cinnamon.
Can't take Gavin anywhere. I apologize for him.
But then she made the crust herself, and she took and baked it and put a lattice on it and stuff. But when I first sipped on this, it took me back to that apple pie that she makes. Now I make the apple pies, and I put bourbon in it.
Yeah, of course you do.
I was just gonna say, does this part where you tell us you now make better apple pie than your wife?
Oh, she would tell you that.
This is fighting words.
A smoked apple pie on the smoker.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Like, we can be there in a couple hours. How quickly can you get her whipped up?
If I'm cooking, there's whiskey in it somehow, somewhere. And my wife's like,
It's
you
in it or with it, for sure.
Yeah, you put whiskey in it again. I'm like, yeah, it's drunken chili. Of course I put
That's Old Crow and chili.
Yes,
that's
so good.
But hold up. You don't put Old Tub in there? I know how you feel about Old Tub.
You could probably cook with Old Tub.
You got to cook it out.
It's like a flat Coke, though. Old Tub is just. It's like a hot.
Gavin,
hot
on the
soda.
nose, what did you pick up?
I got there's a chocolatey note, almost like a dark chocolate.
I'll be honest, I was somewhat surprised at how light the dark chocolate was on the nose, and then how predominant it became on the palate and finish.
Yes. I also, there's a bit of like a coffee-ish note on the nose.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with both of you guys on this. I will say the nose leaned far more on the sweet fruit side, and I think as I moved into the palate and the finish, all of the coffee and chocolate and stuff started to show up, and that heavily roasted malt, right? I agree, disagree. How are you feeling on this one?
On the palate?
Yeah.
Oh, on the palate, it just keeps going and going on. It's like a long, nice finish on it and stuff. I'm always surprised with that with whiskeys, right? I'm looking at your glasses. Didn't have a whole lot of legs, and maybe that's the proof. But I always say, I used to say this all the time. I'm like, I'd like to see this at cast strength and see what it tastes like.
We're going there.
Yeah, so this was a debate we actually had a couple days ago, and I'm kind of curious your take. And I know this, I'm throwing this right in the middle of the tasting notes, but I think there is an argument to be had that sometimes cast strength provides so much proof it covers up I won't say inferior whiskey, but whiskey that has flaws to it. Whereas when you bring it down in proof, those flaws show up, and you can't hide it as much when you bring it down in proof. I'm curious your take.
I'm opposite of that.
Which side of that coin? Because this was a debate, right?
I think distillers, they are trying to hide something. They're proofing it down. There's some flaw in there. They thought, oh, this doesn't drink good. I straight out of the barrel. But that's typically European style. They don't drink high proof whiskeys. And that really Americans didn't drink high proof whiskey. Even moonshine, right, is not, a moonshiner told us. He's like, I would never sell moonshine at 140 proof. I sell it at 100 proof because that's what people could drink. He's like, you know what happens to a man that drinks a whole mason jar of 140 moonshine? He'll jump off a mountain.
Yeah.
He's like, it's still beautiful whiskey. And I don't think nothing is hidden inside this glass. I taste those just hints of almost white chocolate to me. There's no dark chocolate on this. But that's my palate. Very still that tea, and the honey is coming out to me and hitting me at the right spot. That honey note, crisp apple all the way on this. I'm looking for that memory. And that memory of my wife making an apple pie and you're eating it and maybe just a dab of, vanilla ice cream with it. A very beautiful whiskey. Do I know if it's worth that price or not? I'm like,
absolutely. So, to me, where this one really breaks out and gets different is on the finish, because on the nose I had sweet fruit, on the palate I got a little bit more chocolate and espresso, and then on the finish I run through all of that again. I've got chocolate. It almost starts milk chocolate and ends dark chocolate where your mouth dries a bit and it kind of creates that little bit of pucker. And then there's just this hint of orange that shows up as it dries.
Orange zest.
Yeah. And it brings fruit back into it. I really like the way that kind of brings you full circle on the.
I was going to say, there's not really enough leather in this room for this bottle, I don't think. I just don't feel like... There should be a whole bunch.
It's because they can't see Gavin's pants.
That's the same with the leather pants. So on the finish, I think I put orange, and then I put like a smoky ash. It's not smoky as your traditional smoky Scotch would be. There's it's almost like after the campfire has been blazing and it's just the embers going. And there's a little bit of ash. Like that's what I got. Mixed with a bit of orange. So it's almost like the orange fell in the ash, and then you tried to eat it.
Yeah, Gavin gets out there. Gavin, I should have warned you on that one. Sorry.
I actually got a little bit of like toasted graham cracker. And that smokiness from the campfire. And you're eating a s'more, but if you had that toasted a little bit, that's where you ever had that s'more cooker. You know what I'm talking about? It was like that cast iron.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It almost
and you put it in there, and you put it in the fire, and you're cooking it. That graham cracker gets a little bit of smokiness. It'll, kind of filters in.
It's different than a normal s'more where you just toast the marshmallow and then try to use that heat to melt the chocolate on a untoasted graham cracker.
And I don't know if
it's a different flavor.
It was made for. I think it was made for like grilled cheese sandwiches or something back in the day. But I've cooked s'mores in there, and the smoke just filters in.
Can we just say a s'more is the best version of a grilled cheese sandwich ever?
Ooh, hot take.
I don't know.
Right there.
We just had grilled cheese sandwiches the other day for dinner.
All right.
While my mother-in-law ate coconut shrimp in front of us.
Oh.
I was like, man,
how dare.
I know. I was like, we're just eating bread and butter over here, and you're eating fancy.
All right, so it's that time where we put numbers to things. So I want to give you a rundown of how we score,
right,
so you can at least try to match that system. In our mind, anything 60 and below is undrinkable swill. The 60s represent I would drink it, but only if you bought it for me. The 70s are I would drink it, but I wouldn't buy a bottle of it. 80s are I'd love to have a bottle. 90s are I have a bottle and I don't share it unless I really know you appreciate it. Nothing goes above 99. That's our premise when we put numbers. And as the guy who picked the barrel, it means I get to be the one who goes last. So
all right.
as the guest, understanding 70s only, or 60s only if Gavin or I bought it for you. 70s you'd buy a glass at the bar, but you didn't need to own a bottle. 80s is have a bottle. 90 is keep it in the back of the stash so nobody knows you got it.
I'm a whiskey nerd. I love all whiskeys, but I would say right around 88 to 91 on this right here, to where because the price point on this is, I'll probably buy less whiskey than both of you put together, right? At this point in my life and where my show's at, but I would still buy this and put it back unless I knew you really, number one, deserved to drink it. For
sure.
Yeah.
But I think somewhere in that range, 88 to 91.
All right, I'll have to put a hyphen in your score when we put it.
Is
above
this
your head.
has the guy who writes the whiskey Bible? What's that guy's name?
Mike, not Mike Jackson.
I want to say
Patterson.
Jim Morrison or something. But
Jim Morrison. The Doors? No, that's a different guy.
I forgot what his name is, but
Charles, isn't it Charles?
I don't know. Now we're gonna
figure it out.
I'm gonna have to edit this entire section out of the episode.
We'll just put it. We'll just put it down
leaving it in. I'm leaving it in.
I'm just wondering where other people score it. But I think you're right.
Well, no. Gavin's gonna give it a number here in a second. I think it's gonna be high too. I'll be honest.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I put it at a 91.
Good Lord, are you kidding me?
No,
Mike, read the number I wrote down.
90.
91.
91. So this is like a 91
Yeah.
across. I mean, asterisk a little bit.
Yeah, no, yours is a hyphenated 88 to 91, but yeah.
But we all settled in at 91.
You told me I had to have a hard number.
No, I said pick a number. You're fine. You're fine. We'll put 91 for all three of us. The part I find really intriguing is sitting listening to our tasting notes. You tasted something different than what Gavin tasted, and that was still a little different than what I had. But yet we all ultimately came back and said, that's the kind of bottle I would love to have, and I would share with somebody special.
So I drank whiskey with somebody not too long ago, and they're a newer whiskey drinker, right? And
like a newer kind of whiskey drinker?
No, they're just newer. Great person, I think, but they were telling me their tasting notes, and I was like, "There's no way that this person is able to tell me this." I'm like, I think you're just throwing stuff out there. And I think over time a person's palate develops, right?
Yeah.
To where the amount of whiskey that I drink per year is way more than what the normal, typical person, even a whiskey nerd, can
The
do.
70-pound difference between you and I is liver alone.
I get it. Well, I'm not talking about the amount. I'm talking about the amount of bottles.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Would take, let's say a whiskey social, right? How many different bottles of whiskey did you taste that night?
Well, I tried to do all of them. I'll be honest.
That's the inherent problem of going to a whiskey expo like that. It's like
same thing with bottle shares.
Yeah, once you get to a certain point, your palate is toast. Like you're not.
There's no point in drinking anymore.
Right. You're now just enjoying yourself. You're not really there for.
I find the challenge tends to be is that you get together with buddies and you have a couple drinks, and then after about the third one, you're like, "Ooh, we should drag out the." And I'm like, "Why are we dragging out the good stuff at the end of the night when we should have started with small pours of that at the beginning when we could truly appreciate it?"
I think that's a good. That's a good suggestion to people to start their bottle shares and say, "Hey," because I did that. And I even challenged a guy. I said, if you can get up off that chair, and he was sleeping at my bar, I was like, if you can get up off that chair, you can have the rest of this King of Kentucky. And he couldn't. I knew he couldn't make it up off his stool. I was like, well, everybody else was like, I'll take it for him. Said, it's got to be him. But
yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with at a bottle share saying, listen, I'm bringing out a big one. We're all going to have a pour, and then I'm putting it away.
But to start at the
but do it at the beginning, not at the end.
Or maybe you're two pours in. Because
my argument has always been the third pour is the best one.
Yeah, you need to get revved up a little bit.
Yeah. So, get that palate going a little bit.
But what a number one, a beautiful bottle. I know I gave it shit for because it's black. But if the whole thing was black, and then I would be like, what's hiding? But it kind of is like I said,
it's got a peekaboo moment at the end.
Yeah, peekaboo moment.
All right, this puts us to bottle number 2, Gavin.
Aye.
Be so kind.
Yes.
And I'm gonna let a little secret out here. This is not the first time I've tried this one.
Well, I could tell. This
No. That's
somebody's-
Gavin's bottle. I own four of these bottles and only have 1.5 left. That's how much I've enjoyed this.
So our back patio group, I think everyone pretty much has this bottle.
We stumbled into it, and when we found it, we immediately called and ordered from the distributor every bottle they had left on the shelf.
Really?
You
do pour it.
He's a heavy guy.
I'm a heavy-handed
That's why he
man.
lets you pour it yourself.
Yeah.
I'm like, easy little fella.
So this next bottle is the Oban 15 cast strength Oloroso and Palo Cortado cast strength bourbon. We are clocking in at 55.3% ABV. And for those out there, the math runs out to 110.6 proof.
You know, people always ask me, they're like, and I'm sure guys or gals ask you the same thing. What's your favorite whiskey? Right?
Third glass is my favorite every time.
We just talked about it. It's the third one.
And I'm like, what's the next whiskey on my trip, right? Is that I'm finding down the road and stuff. And I haven't had this before. But if the palate matches the nose on this, this is just a sexy nose.
This one
Whiskey.
This one came out. We literally bought up everything left they had in Houston, and then like 2 months later, the Whiskey Advocate's top 20 list of the year came out, and this one was like number 3 or number 4.
Number 2. You're
Number
still
2?
in my.
Oh, damn it!
Stealing it. You're stealing it.
Sorry.
It ranked number 2 in Whiskey Advocate's top 20 in 2025. So this is the 2025 release.
Oh my lord, that's good.
This is finished for over 4 years in the Oloroso and Palo Cortado sherry casks.
And the palate matches the nose.
Yeah, no, it's spot on. It's spot on.
This is why I drink whiskey right here.
Yeah.
Is to people say, hey, Mike, you need to try this. And I can't thank you enough for bringing that out. A special bottle to you two, obviously,
Yep.
but let me try that. Now I'm going to have to find a bottle of it.
So
Just stick one in my bag.
Yeah. There's a few. There may be some floor whiskey over here.
all right. So what I'm gonna give a little sneak. Big Chiefs show does a giveaway every week, and we're not normally giveaway guys, but in honor of you being here, we wanted to do a giveaway. So what we're going to do, assuming we can twist his arm into letting us have a little bit of the bottles from the first half, is we're going to do a set of 4 tasters. So you can get all 4 of them that we tried on the show tonight, and that will be our giveaway for this week.
I love it. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll throw an extra whiskey trip glass in with those tasters.
That'd be awesome.
Awesome. That would be great. That would be great. All right. I want to get back a little bit to the idea. We talked about the hurdles and the things that Gavin and I have been going through in a podcast, but you've been doing this a lot longer, right? Like, this is easy. This is old hat for you now.
I don't know if anything's easy.
So, your show, if at home you don't check it out, go check it out. But it is
Time out. Don't do it right now. Finish watching the show and then
you
go.
can hold up, pause, go subscribe, come back, finish the
There it
show,
is.
and you'll catch next
There it
Tuesday's
is. That's
episode as it goes
the
live. You do a lot of interviewing people to hear the story, right? That's the premise of the show. I'm curious, have you ever had that moment where you're like, I cannot believe I've got so-and-so in front of a microphone with me? Has there been a moment that you're like straw-struck? And it may not be recent, it may have been years ago now, right? But was there that person you're like, oh, this is so cool. Can't believe this is really happening.
I don't feel like I've ever been starstruck and stuff. You know, have I got to interview some just downright amazing people?
Gavin and I were on like a week and a half ago. Come on.
We were the stars of that show.
I don't think I have gotten. I've just never been like that to where somebody's like, do you know who that is? Or have I had big guests on I had an old podcast called The Bourbon Road and lived some through the same struggles that you guys have having a co-host and schedules and that, but never a person that, you know, and I've got to interview the biggest people in the industry, Brent Elliott at Four Roses or now I'm gonna forget his name. God dang it, Danny Potter from Maker's Mark. Now he's with Potter Jane, his own brand. But interviewing those folks, I think when I sit down and interview them, I just try to treat a person as a normal person. And if you're starstruck, you get lost in the moment and stuff. Am I excited about getting to interview, Freddie No from Jim Beam and Fred No? Oh yeah, to me that's a great accomplishment for my show. That means I had probably made it to the pinnacle where I was going to be at and stuff. But do I get starstruck? No, because I'm there to do I'm a professional, I guess. And maybe that was my military background and what I do for a living is I'm not starstruck when I speak to a senator or congressman. Somebody's like, "Hey, do you know?"
No, it's because they're really not that.
Politicians.
We're heading into it's a whole different thing.
But no,
Depends on if they're Republican or Democrat, is whether or not you're starstruck. No, I'm teasing.
I just don't get starstruck like that. I just, even with, I've gotten into music now. We were right when COVID hit. We were just about to have Sturgill Simpson on, and I might have got a little starstruck then, but I don't know if I would have or not. I just feel like they're just a person that puts on their pants just like me.
No, they have somebody else put their pants on. That's how famous they are.
And I don't know if there's anybody in whiskey like that. You ever heard the story about Jimmy Russell and Matthew McConaughey? And Matthew McConaughey thinks he's like a big deal. And he is. He's a movie star, right? But at the same time, Jimmy Russell's a big deal.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm Matthew McConaughey. And he's like, well, I'm Jimmy Russell. And he's like, but I've made a bunch of movies. And he's like, well, I've made a bunch of whiskey. It's just, to me, it's
an interesting question. Which would you be more excited to get to meet in person? I already know. We got to meet Jimmy when we went and visited Wild Turkey.
I don't know. Matthew McConaughey is a Texas Longhorn.
Yeah.
My wife would
all
be
the more
very
reason not
excited.
to like him.
She would be very excited if I could interview Matthew McConaughey.
Oh my Lord!
I'm sure your wife.
My wife would sit in on that interview.
That's the one time. That's the one time my wife would drink whiskey right now.
So we actually years ago, I got into doing whiskey tastings for customers and stuff. And so I would always pick some sort of goofball theme, right? And so we did a Matthew McConaughey night. And it was all rye, all rye, all rye. And so that was our theme, was they were only rye whiskeys. And then he comes out with Long Branch, and I'm like, well, I kind of got to put that in this tasting, but it's not a rye whiskey. Yeah. And it threw me way off.
I just don't get starstruck by people. I don't, except if I'm super inebriated and I'm at a Fleetwood Mac concert.
Okay.
Stevie Nicks comes out.
Right.
Then, yeah.
All right, that's fair enough. That'll be your bucket list.
Maybe Paula Dean.
All right, well that gets my last question.
Get that butter bread.
All right, so you've sat down and interviewed a lot of people. Some people are talkers. Some people aren't talkers. Like, as somebody who has the struggle of potentially having to carry the conversation or sometimes try to get a word in edgewise, has there been interviews you're like, that one got out of hand on me? Either way, right? Like if you want to tell God, that was like pulling teeth kind of story, or if you want to tell a story like it was supposed to be 15 minutes and 2.5 hours later, I'm going,
And you don't have to divulge
and I haven't
names.
stopped talking yet.
You don't have to say names if you don't want to.
We'll go look up their picture and put it up here above our heads.
I talked about this on my show 2 weeks ago. I've been to Maker's Mark several times and interviewed the master distiller there, the master blender, master of maturation, but also one of the owners, Rob Samuels, and one of the founders' grandchildren. And it was just like reading from a pamphlet. I was like, this is a sales pitch. And I'm not ashamed of that, saying that about that, but I've had people like that. Mark Rucker from the Bourbon Life said that Harley Wheatley from Buffalo Trace was the same way. Just yes and no questions. But the art of being an interviewer is drawing good questions out of people. Right. Now, when you do draw out a good question, that question might be 30 minutes long, and you're like, "Ooh, am I ever going to be able to talk? And where do I fit that in and not interrupt and try to be rude?" Right? But you just gotta. I've just found you got to just let it flow, and I don't set my show to 1 hour. I'll just let it ride, and if it's 2.5 hours, I think my best episode ever was with you guys. No,
Go check it out. Go check it out.
no, with
Third best. That's okay. We'll get there.
And I go back to the Maker's Mark episode, but that episode went like 2.5 hours, and I remember my old co-host like, "That's too long. Nobody's gonna watch it." And that was our most watched episode ever because people
had plenty of time to watch it.
Oh, you're going to be on there.
You
You're
watch
gonna,
a little bit here, a little bit there.
Or you sit down with a whole bottle and you finish the bottle, whatever you're doing.
That's a good night.
But
You need a buddy.
I don't have a time limit on it. I just let the conversation flow and the stories come out. And as the more whiskey a person drinks, sometimes the more they'll talk to you.
Yeah.
It's always amazing to me. Like, you can ask 10 questions and get 9 yes or no answers, and then 1. That's the thing they wanted to talk about. That whatever that is struck a chord, and then they take off, and you're like, I did not see that.
Yeah, or something that you disagree with, or you're like, I didn't want to talk about that today. I've got some unaired episodes that I've got those hard rules on my show. We're not going to talk about politics, right? And we're not going to talk about religion, and we're not going to talk about social issues. We're going to talk about whiskey, right? We talk about barbecue.
All right,
sports,
let me cross that question off.
I saw the wheels turning over there. It's like, oh.
Yeah, but I got those hard rules, and I've had an episode where a guy, that's all he talked about. The whole thing was bashing politics, and I was like, I stopped him and I was like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yep.
And he just kept going, and I was like, they called me and said, when's our episode? It's not coming out ever. Now that distillery went out of business. I will not name that name, but those are the episodes you just got to roll with them, and some things will never come out like that. And that's stuff like in TV. Well, everything comes out now, it seems like, but nobody's ever going to hear that episode. I deleted the stuff, and I'm just like moved on. Some stuff you can edit out.
Yeah.
That's why I don't do live shows, is because
The insurance seems like it'd be way more expensive for a live show. I won't lie.
I mean, I have did a live show a couple times, and I drank too much whiskey on those shows and got uncomfortable. But
Shirtless?
I just
like uncomfortable, or
I think Brent Elliott, I had a great conversation with him, and I fucked up, and for some reason my microphone or his microphone didn't record, and
so it's just you asking questions.
you
and
could
no
barely
answers.
hear him. And my old co-host put the episode out. I was like, please don't put that out. We'll just go back to that one.
Yeah.
And he put it out anyways, and I was so embarrassed by it. It broke me almost. I was like, why did you do that? But, the show must go on. I've been sick, and
It's a bit disheartening that you'll spend several hours prepping and then shoot an episode, and that takes a couple hours to shoot an episode, and then you get to the end and realize that we were having mic trouble, and like all of that was for nothing, right? I will say that Gavin and I have had a couple of those, and if you go back and look at our episodes, the ones that are notably shorter, that's probably because we did that the second time, and we go much faster the second time.
Well,
than the
then
first
you're
time.
like, oh, hey, we got all these questions we asked.
We already know. We already know what we're going to talk about.
There's just the art to the conversation, and I think over time, as you guys go along, you're going to get better and better at it. I bet you look at your first content to now, it's probably night and day.
If viewership is any indication, the first episode we ever did was our best one. But I disagree. I think we just had a lot of family that showed up to watch.
They were like,
first
oh, this
episode.
is a new thing. We're going to go do
And
this.
then I think episode 2, they're like, I think I've had enough of that.
So you said something that I just want to tag on to. You said the art of conversation. And I think that is very eloquently put. I think...
Is eloquent a word people typically use to describe you?
No.
Okay.
Well, here we go.
Do I look elegant?
Well, I'm gonna go back to the. Never mind. We're gonna move on.
I want to hear you.
Well, I was like the conversation we had off camera about leg day.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Trying not to go
The
there, but
the best legs in whiskey podcasts is what I heard.
that's
We'll see. We'll see.
from a dude in a gas
I
station.
bet you I probably do. I mean, I got some sexy legs for a fat guy. Got to carry this big frame around.
It's true. You get plenty of workout.
Big chief legs.
Yeah.
No, I think the art of conversation, the art of storytelling, I think it's so very important, and I love the thought and the comment you made about, like, I'm not here to sell your whiskey. I'm here to steal your story. I think that is so cool to think about. As Aaron and I have started the Noble Dram, we long talked about, like, every pour tells a story, and we've as far as the Noble Dram have centered mostly around us, our community. We don't interview a whole lot, and we would love to do more interviews. So let us know if that is something that you would be interested in. But I think the art of storytelling and the art of conversation is so very important. And for you do it by yourself. And for the most part, right? Like, you interview somebody else. And I would find that more nerve-wracking than having a co-host who you can ping-pong things off of.
So you're saying I'm your crutch, is what
You
you're
are
saying.
my crutch.
Gotcha.
I don't know. There's, you might not have grow up in a time of watching the nightly news, but definitely Aaron and I did, right? And we watched these great Walter Cronkite, right? With these great interviewers that just could draw out, like, who was the guy that, was it Walter Cronkite that had a big relationship with Muhammad Ali? I forget what that guy's name is, but they had this art of storytelling and interviewing and stuff. And sometimes it is tough to do it by myself or have somebody else in the room watching me and trying to text me and say, oh, you should ask this. You should hey, go make your own damn podcast. I've got it in my head what I'm going to do.
We've had this debate, right? We have no producer. This is Gavin and I.
Yeah.
We kind of do it ourselves. And then you hear guys that, like, yeah, I have a producer and he talks to me in my ear while I'm doing this. I don't know how you listen to the conversation at hand and put your thoughts together. Like, 2/3 of what we do every night before we film is, like, let's run through what is the plan? How are we going to handle this? So that way then it flows naturally, because we don't have somebody giving us feedback on what to do. I think that would be a lot harder.
One of the things I have changed over the years, I used to look at my phone a lot while the person was talking. Mm-hmm. And my wife would catch me doing that. Now, before I started filming, nobody ever noticed that. But I had to break myself with that, right? So that maybe put a little bit more preparation in. And people are like, man, you know a lot about these distilleries, you're a guest. And I'm like, that's because I did some homework, and it's that preparation for the interview and thinking about the whiskey that I'm going to drink with him, or the story that we're going to tell, or the story I found, or listen to the other shows like your guys' show. If you have a person on your show and I'm going to have them on a year or two later, I'm going to go back and watch that show and see what was said, look at the mannerisms of whenever that guest was asked that question. And that will tell a lot. That body language, right, will tell a lot. Was that made them uncomfortable? Because I don't want to make my guests uncomfortable. I want them to sit down. And most of them tell me, they're like, man, you made me feel so comfortable sitting down and just talking to you and shooting shit. It just felt like we were talking about porch pours. It's just sitting down and talking as friends. And at the end of the day, I want to leave there and be like, man, I love that guy. He's just a conversationalist. We had a great conversation. And he's going to... Do I want to steal their stories? I do, but at the end of the day, I want people to go back there and say, you know what, I'm buying this whiskey because of Big Chief, if that makes sense. And I think you guys think the same thing. You want people to walk into a liquor store or into a distillery and say, I showed up here because of the Noble Dram, because of Aaron and Gavin, and I enjoyed their show so much and what they told me about these bottles that I had to come out here and get this. Now, do they all do that? No, but I know distillers call me and say, hey, we have people come in here all the time and say, hey, Big Chief told us about you. And that makes me feel good. That makes me feel good that a small distiller got to sell some whiskey because of my stupid little show out there.
Well, and we talked a little bit about it in the first half, right? Like, part of just because I say it's good doesn't mean everybody's going to like it, right? Part of this is I say it's good because it matches my palate. And so the question is, you watch the show for a little bit and you say, I've tried some of the things that Aaron likes, or I've tried some of the things that Gavin likes, and I agree or I disagree. And you begin to understand, like, oh, my palate aligns with theirs in this way. And that then helps act as a guide to go in and get in your own whiskey.
And to that note, I think telling stories, right? Getting to know the person, I think tells a lot about also kind of what they're tasting. Like some of the notes that I get off of this whiskey, off of this glass, is from my experiences. And you were talking about, like, the apple pie, right? The imagery of that.
Imagine if she'd made peach pie.
Right.
That'd be a totally different whiskey.
Southern comfort.
Like, that's how I relate to whiskey. I relate to whiskey a lot through movies, obviously through memories, movies, music, like the lived experiences. So, with that being said, I want to get to a little bit of what's in the glass.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
So, on the nose, Big Chief, I'd like to know kind of what you're kind of hinting at on the nose.
So the nose on this right here was a lot of you take an orange and you toast it. You kind of caramelize it a little bit. I'm getting that on this nose for some reason, and I kept going back to that. And I'm like, what am I getting on this nose? So when I'm making like a cocktail, if I took and drizzled a little bit of brown sugar on an orange and then toasted it and stuck it in my glass and poured some whiskey over it with like some vanilla, that would be this nose right here. If that makes sense to you. I know listeners out there, viewers are like, how is this guy getting that?
No, sure.
But that's a lived experience.
No, yeah.
Well, I think in a broader sense, fruit, right, is obviously where you start, and then you delve into it a little bit. I'm with you on orange, not orange peel, but orange, right? Like actual the juice side of orange, not the peel side of orange. I also get fruit that, like you mentioned peach earlier being grilled. I'm almost like apricot on this one, like a dehydrated apricot. Right? Like you get in trail mix. On the nose, I think fruit just carries throughout this entire thing, right? This is dessertish almost in its fruitiness.
On the nose, orange, citrus all over it. I put raisin bread. I think there's a raisininess to it.
I think that's that Palo Cordado cask showing up. No, for sure.
Yeah. And then Oban, if you don't know where Oban is, it's on the west side of Scotland, right on the coast. I get a bit of almost a saltiness to it on the nose.
I would say this has got a little bit of, when you say salty, but salted butter, but it's honey butter.
Okay.
That's something I would pick up in this nose right here. And I don't know if you ever had a good honey butter, but good Lord. On a hot roll, God almighty.
So we could talk hot rolls all day long.
He's going to talk about throne rolls.
Yeah. So my wife likes to make butter. It's a thing she does now, right? And then you get done, and she just puts flake salt on top of a buttered piece of bread.
Does she do that right there?
Yeah, she does, like from way up here. But yeah, that like flaky salt on grilled fruits and butter, like I absolutely get that.
All right, on the palate, where are we sitting on the palate?
I think I'm getting a lot of that malted barley's coming out to me on this. But I'm still getting that when we're talking about that honey butter and a roll, a nice yeast roll and stuff. I'm getting that openness to me. Some waves of that fruit, right? And almost like a compost of a chutney of fruits chopped up.
Yep.
That maybe were not stewed, but you grilled them a little bit. Man, I tell you what.
Yeah.
Man.
What a beautiful whiskey.
You're on it.
So the only thing I would add to that is I think the fruits have been stewed on a smoker. I think there's a hint of smoke in there.
Smoke, yeah.
Like, and not ashy like we were talking about before, but like actual wispy smoke that shows up. I I think there's a good chance that smoke comes from peat, and I don't get a ton of earthy, grassy peat notes. I think the fruit still carries the banner through the palate.
So this is not a peated whiskey at all.
No.
So
I
where
mean,
are the barrels?
So there's at least a reasonable chance that some of the whiskey in here has been peated.
Yeah.
But what I'll say is I think it's not all of it, and I don't think it was heavily peated.
Right.
That would be my interpretation.
If there,
I don't know for sure, but that would certainly be my interpretation of the
And I would say the barreling of it when you do that Oloroso would take some of that out of there.
Yep.
And
The longer it sits in the barrel, the more it
And you
pulls
said
in those
4
phenols.
years, right?
4 years.
4 years it finished in Palo Cardano. It was in other barrels before that.
Correct.
So I think the safe assumption is they were probably ex-bourbon barrels, right? Because we talked a little bit about vanilla and honey that's shown up. I think a lot of that is leaching some of that peat out, and then they've moved it over into a very, very fruity sherry barrel. And I think that, again, helps to soften some of the peat note, but there's that wispy smokiness that carries through. Like a peach cobbler that's been cooked on a smoker.
How much does this bottle run?
This runs around $150.
Okay.
Give or take a few tenors.
Yeah.
But it's about $150. On the palate, on this one, I put charred fruits. So that tracks. I put there's a little cinnamon graham cracker into it. So I think there's a little cinnamon note to it.
Like the little bears
Yes.
you can get your kids used to eat?
Yep. And maybe it's because we got a...
You still have a kid who eats those?
Yeah. And then the very last thing, I put sun-kissed soda.
Like orange.
Like
orange
the
soda.
orange soda. I think there's a little bit of that
Okay.
note that showed up. So that orange still comes in, a little artificial orange. But...
High fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
note.
When you talk about that cinnamon, but I would get a cinnamon, and you probably know nothing about this because your age.
Uh-oh.
You're such a young man. But cinnamon toothpicks from back.
Oh,
then.
God.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not as young as I look, let's just say.
You got to remember.
haven't said that
you
in a
got to
long
remember
time with
every
whiskey.
trend that hit the country hit Oklahoma 15 years later. So they still have cinnamon toothpicks in Oklahoma.
All right, finish.
I mean, the proof shows up to me on the finish. Like this actually tingles and bites the tongue more than the Signe did. So to me, that's where the proof really shows up. I think flavors stay consistent right into the finish, but there is a bite on the tongue and a tingliness that comes from proof.
I think as it set in my glass, the longer it's set in there, it seems like the proof has went down. I would almost think I had some ice in my glass. You know, the first stuff
let it
it
breathe a
tasted,
little.
yeah, it breathed, it opened up, and the proof went down for me. But still, it has that long finish. What's the total age on this? Did they say
15 years.
15 total years? So it's 15 total years or 15 plus the 4?
It should be 15 total.
15 total. So you 11 plus 4.
11 plus 4. But really, it's only 11-year-old whiskey because once you take it out of the first barrel.
In Scotland, I think they still count the second maturation in the total.
Could you
age.
imagine if people in America did that?
So a lot of things.
So
Got to be different. Gotta be different.
Well, yes, when we did the whiskeys of the world and started running through the rules of whiskey in all these different countries, there's so many similarities, but yet so many differences that really everyone exploits the differences and kind of ignores the similarities.
Yeah.
All right, we got to put numbers to these.
Well, you didn't give your finish.
No, it's proof. Proof
All right.
is proof.
Proofs to finish.
Yeah, smoke and fruit still carry the flavor profile, but like a tingliness that shows up on the tongue where that like there's still proof to it.
So I said it was crisp. I think there is a bit of like Welch's white grape juice. You know, like the little communion cups you get at church.
Nobody. Just so we're on the same page, yours is the only church that uses white grape juice.
We go to the
The
same
rest of
church.
us use red grape juice.
No, I think there's like a Welch's white grape juice.
My church uses Miller Lite.
It's the Miller Lite Church. Yeah, I think knowing where this is in Scotland, I think the finish just reminds me of like fish and chips. Like I want to eat or drink this with fish and chips.
This is dessert after a nice
Salty
seafood meal sitting
Yeah.
on the coast.
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I almost want to slap you for saying that.
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
Fried
You just
fish.
ruined it for me right there.
Darn it.
Ruined it
It
for
doesn't taste like fish and chips.
I would want to. I'm with Aaron on this. I'd want to drink this with a really good dessert, like a baked Alaska or a creme brulee.
Yeah, to me, I think one of the problems you always have when you talk about whiskeys and desserts is that the whiskey is very sweet by itself, but when you pair it with something else that's really sweet, it loses some of its sweetness. I actually think I would lean towards like a New York style cheesecake that isn't very sweet on its own, but really rich and creamy.
What about a
To let
German
the-
cheesecake?
to let
has no sweetness at all.
The fruitness of this carry the day on the sweetness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My fear is a baked Alaska would be so sugary that this wouldn't taste sweet anymore.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I could.
I
drink
do
whiskey
it.
anytime.
I do it. I do it. All right, we got to put a number to it.
All right.
You want to give us a range?
No, I know the rules now. The rules have been laid down good. I understand them. This is a tough one right here. I think the price on this is a little less. So I'd probably go with about a 92 on this. 92.
I can't think the last time we had two whiskeys, both in the 90s on one episode.
Yeah, I know.
I am a 94 on this one. This one is excellent. It saddens me that this is a limited release, and like,
You
once it's gone,
guys
it's
put
gone.
some home run hitters up here.
I mean, look at that. I don't got much left. I put this at a 93. Right up there in the 90s. It is sweet. It is salty. It is fruity. There's some smokiness to it. There's a little bit of spice. I mean, it is everything I want in a Scotch. This is it.
that would be the average here is 95.
Yeah,
I made a mistake, and I sipped my last sip. I need a splash of
He's
the
like,
rest.
give me
Cheers.
some. Give me
Well,
some.
I think at that point, we're just going to do another round.
Okay.
I need a tad bit more.
Gavin's will be a full pour. I just want a splash for the
I'll
toast.
just do a splash.
I mean, I got to drive, so.
You still got a little in your glass, so you're okay. All right. So the way we end all of these is with a toast and a cheers to everyone at home. But I want to do it a little different today. What I want to encourage you is to go out, check out Big Chief and The Whiskey Trip. Comes out every Tuesday morning, right?
Every Tuesday
You
morning.
can listen to it on the way to work. That's how early this guy gets up and gets
Yeah,
after it. Excellent storytelling, tons of great personalities from around whiskey, both in the podcast world and the production world. Man, it has been an absolute treat to have you here tonight.
Well, I tell you what, I've had a great time. You guys pour some great whiskeys for me. I can't say thank you enough. I just, this is what I got into this for. It was to meet guys like you and to hear your stories, right? To hear your backgrounds, and appreciate that. And then to understand that you appreciate whiskeys from around the world like I do. There's not a lot of people in what we're doing to do that. They stick to a genre usually, and they're only an expert at that. While you guys are, and I love how you're scoring them, and your tasting notes are spot on. You're not using one tasting wheel that somebody else wrote. You got your own tasting notes. It sounds like you're doing it from memory, like you said, from a memory you had, something you ate. And that's what I always talk about in whiskey. So I appreciate you two guys and having me on here and sharing your stories with me.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, well, Big Chief, thank you so much. First and foremost, also, thank you for your service to this country.
Thanks, I appreciate
and
it.
everything that you've done. Cheers.
And Solange
Slàinte.
We want to thank you, our noble listener, for joining us.
We believe each whiskey has a story, and so do you. So give us your thoughts by leaving a comment.
And if you have a whiskey you'd like to see us share, let us know.
You don't want to miss a single episode, so subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And make sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay up to date on the Noble Dram.
And if you find watching is difficult, you can always listen to each episode on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
As always, be noble
And enjoy your dram responsibly.